I will first put in the chat a link to a Poll Everywhere site. It's a site that allows interactive presentations. So you can click on this link in the chat and it will bring up a site where you can put your name or put another name. The answers are not are anonymous, so we will be asking kind of like some interactive questions and also get some feedback from you about the webinar at the end. So with that, I will share my screen and get started. So thank you for joining us. I'm Marisa Kursoko, and I'm the Program Director of the UConn Technical Assistant for Brownfields program. And today we'll be talking about preparing for MARC grants. So to first test whether you were able to access the website, we have like a simple question. How are you feeling today? So hopefully the poll is coming up on your screen. So we'd love to know how you are today. Okay, so I'm not sure if it's working. Okay, very good. So we are working. So, yep, definitely, I'm glad to hear some people are doing well and some are stressed out. I totally hear you. Thankfully, we have a good long weekend coming up. And we will also like to start with a sense of who is in the audience. So if you can let us know how much knowledge do you feel that you have to prepare a MARC grant application. Okay, so we have a few beginners and some who have some experience before. So we will have additional resources for you. And why are we starting today? So today is June 29th, and with summer coming up, we are feeling like we have the time to consider MARC grants that are coming up. And then we also see every year that come September 15th, when the announcements for the RFPs come out, we realize how much little time there is left, and are running to kind of like figure out which is the right grant, what are the eligibility criteria, and so on. And so today we want to address some things that you can be doing in the next couple of months, so that come September 15th, you're feeling more prepared to put that grant together. So we have 6 learning objectives for the webinar today. So at the end of today, hopefully you will know how to identify what the available options are for the MARC grants, which stands for Multi-Purpose Assessment, Revolving Loan Fund, and Cleanup Grants. So which options will be available, select the appropriate type of grant for your organization, evaluate if a site is eligible and ready for a cleanup grant, identify criteria to select the type of grant, target areas and sites for assessment grants, how to apply for SAM.gov and grants.gov accounts if you don't have them, and then finally plan for additional training and resources to prepare the proposal. So let's start with the first option, with the first learning objective. Look at what are the MARC options for FY24. So the EPA has already announced that the upcoming RFPs will have 4 types of grants. There will be 2 types of assessment grants, community-wide and coalition, and I will go over what the difference between those are in a second. There will be cleanup grants and there will be multi-purpose grants. And there will be no revolving loan funds this time around. And an important consideration here when you're deciding what to do is how many awards are made and also how much funds are allocated. So you can see that this is across the entire United States. EPA made 140 awards of assessment grants, 90 cleanup, and just 18 multipurpose grants. And 2 of those went to EPA Region 1. So you can see that the vast majority of the money goes towards assessment and cleanup, and much less is multipurpose. So even though multipurpose may seem like a very attractive option a lot of the times, you have to be cognizant of the fact that they are much more competitive to get. So at this point, if you have a sense of what you're considering, we'd love to know, and that will also help us with preparation for additional resources and where to focus on. Okay, multiple types. All right, very good. So let's now go to our next learning objective, which is go over the different types of grants so that you have the chance to select the appropriate type for your organization and or sites. So assessment grants are typically for what they say, so for site investigations, phase 1 and phase 2. So they are applicable to if you are dealing with multiple brownfield sites that have had no phase 1 or have had a phase 1 but no phase 2 assessment. And if you have an old phase 1, you can also use these funds to update and get a new phase 1 for your site. This site can be privately owned. You will need to have an access agreement with the site owner if that's the case, but that can be obtained after you sign the cooperative agreement with the EPA. And if you're not able to obtain such an access agreement with the owner, you can always change to another site after you obtain the grant. These sites can be in one or multiple target areas, and target areas can be one census tract or multiple census tracts, or can be even multiple towns if you are working for a regional planning organization and you want to apply for a grant for multiple towns. If you are looking at the cleanup grants, then one of the most important considerations is that this is for a single site or a single parcel, and that parcel must be owned by your organization by the time that you submit the grant. You also need to have a phase 2 assessment done, and this is one of the new requirements that EPA added for eligibility criteria last year. You will also need an assessment of brownfield cleanup alternatives by a consultant and a general idea of site reuse plan. And I'll go into this a little later again. Finally, the multipurpose grant is a grant that addresses multiple sites, and those sites can be at different stages of characterization. So as the name says, you can use this money for both assessment and cleanup purposes. And in fact, to be eligible for this, you have to have at least one site that is eligible for cleanup. So it must be owned by your organization by the time you submit the grant, and you must at least have a partial phase 2 for one of the sites. And typically successful multipurpose grants are written when you're considering multiple sites in a single target area or single town. So let's go now to the individual types of grants and look at the additional requirements. So first, we will talk about a cleanup grant. So the first question that you need to ask when you're considering a cleanup grant is, do you own the site? And when I say you here, I mean the applicant. And the applicant, if you are a regional planning organization, then the regional planning organization must own the site. If you are a town, you must own the town. If you are a nonprofit organization, you must own the site. And there are some clauses that could allow you to have, like, let's say, a 100-year lease agreement, but those are very much scrutinized by the EPA and by their lawyers. So write out ownership of the site, and having the deed is a much more straightforward way to go about this. So if you are a yes, or you know that you have completed the paperwork and get the deed by the time the grant is submitted, then you can further consider a cleanup grant. This is the second part of eligibility now, which has tripped up applicants in the past. For this site, you need to go back and look at if you already own it. Did you conduct all appropriate inquiries? And this is an official term within the CERCLA law. So this means that you need to have either conducted or updated a phase 1 investigation and have an updated phase 1 report within 6 months prior to the purchase date. And if you did not do that, there is no way around this. Your site is not going to be eligible for a cleanup grant. So if you are considering a purchase, make sure that you update your phase 1 within 6 months prior to the purchase date. So if the answer to that is yes, then you can continue and answer the question whether a phase 2 investigation will be complete by the time you receive the funds for the cleanup. And so there is a little bit of leeway here if you don't already have the report, but you can demonstrate to the EPA that it's underway, that you have the funds, and that you will have the phase 2 report by the time you receive the funds, which will be sometime in, let's say, summer of 2024. Then you are still good to go. The reason that the EPA is doing this is that they don't want to give cleanup funds for a site that's not ready for cleanup, and then you find out a year later that you need additional investigation. So I saw a question about all appropriate inquiries, whether you took the site with a tax delinquency or not. This is still necessary. If you have the deed to the site, you need to have conducted all appropriate inquiries prior to getting over ownership of the site. And the reason for that is that phase 1 investigation essentially removes any liability from you as the owner of the site. Whereas if you haven't conducted the all appropriate inquiries, then there is, you may still be kind of like liable for any contamination that happened later. And this is the reason that EPA asks this, and it is a federal law, so it is something that there's no leeway around. So if the answer to all of these questions is yes, then oops, excuse me, I went the wrong way. Then what you can do in the next few months is work on these 2 parts. And I have seen many cases where, this preparation of the APCA becomes an obstacle. So what this is a document that is called Analysis of Brownfield Cleanup Alternatives. This is not prepared by the applicant, but is typically prepared by the consultant who worked on the phase 2 report, or another consultant, it doesn't matter, but it's an environmental professional. This is a required attachment for the proposal. You will also need that to put together the tasks, and it outlines the remedial alternatives and the selected plan. So the document may include cost estimates needed for the proposal. And this may cost you money. So this really depends on the environmental professional. Some charge something like $5,000 to prepare it. Some may roll that into what they call preliminary APCA and final APCA. So they may kind of like come to an agreement with you that they will charge you after you get the cleanup grant. But that's completely up to the environmental professional. So this is something that you want to be talking to your consultant about as soon as possible. And then the other thing that you will really need for a cleanup grant is to demonstrate that you have a reuse plans for the site. That's going to be a key part of the proposal. And it also asks you to demonstrate stakeholder and community involvement when you develop the site. You also need to demonstrate that this plan aligns with a town and with the regional development plans. You also will need to talk about in the proposal how you consider the potential to displace existing people as part of the reuse plan. So if you don't have any plan at all right now, then it would be great if you can spend the next couple of months starting thinking about that. And what can you do? So the first thing is, and you will need that for the proposal as well, to assemble an advisory committee. You want to involve economic development people, planning and zoning, your environmental consultant, and also the community champions, because that's going to be something that it's generally important, but it's also important to demonstrate in the proposal. You want to review your site restrictions, size and location, zoning, if there are any remedial restrictions associated with it, like a cap that has to be maintained, that kind of thing. You want to review town planning documents and identify priorities consistent with site features and develop a menu for options for the site. So for example, are you going to say that you're going to use this for residential, for commercial, mixed use, recreation, open space? Is affordable housing going to go there? What is the general plan, for that site? And then you also want, and you will have to do that as part of the cleanup grant proposal, to have at least one town meeting where you outline your remedial action plan and your redevelopment plan, something like a charrette, and obtain community feedback. And we can help you with that. I will go into that later on. So if all of that is extremely overwhelming for you and you don't have the staff or the bandwidth to do this, this is something that we do help communities do. At this time, we are doing several site reuse assessments for prospective applicants for the fall. So we couldn't do it for this cycle, but it's something that you can consider for the future. We look at all these different considerations that I have outlined here. We create visual renderings for the site, and we help applicants put the vision together for a cleanup grant. So if you're interested in that in the future, you can apply for our municipal assistance program for our spring and summer cycles. Our fall cycle is about preparing MARC grants. So here's a question to kind of like refresh what I just talked about. So this is a hypothetical scenario in which the city of Claremont in New Hampshire took a site under tax foreclosure in 2010. And the Regional Planning Commission provided funding during that time, after that time, to conduct a phase 2 investigation. So who is eligible to apply for an EPA cleanup grant? The city of Claremont, the Regional Planning Commission, either, or a formal coalition between the city. Okay, so we have now that either or the city. So we have, and the winner is, okay, the winner is the city of Claremont. So you are exactly right that even though the Regional Planning Commission contributed to the site advancing using assessment funds, it is only the owner that can apply for the grant. So only the city of Claremont is eligible to apply for the cleanup grant at the, when they are the owner. Excellent. So now we are moving on from the cleanup grants and on to talk about assessment grants. So let's talk first about what is community-wide and what is a coalition grant. A community-wide assessment grant involves a single applicant, whether this is a state, a regional planning organization, a municipality, an economic development corporation, nonprofit organization, or a tribe. All of these entities are eligible for a community-wide assessment grant. These are up to $500,000 and 4 years. I'm not sure if they're going to increase the amount for FY24, but this is what it was in FY23. The coalition grants are grants that we have heard from the EPA, a type that they will increase the amount again this year, and they will really encourage applicants to do that. So as the name says, this is a coalition between a lead applicant and certain members. So the lead applicant can only be a state, a tribe, or a regional planning commission. And then 2 to 4 additional members are allowed. So you have to have at least a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4 as members to the coalition. These can be towns, redevelopment agencies, or nonprofit organizations. And the catch here is that these members cannot have had any MARC grant that is active or that has been awarded in 2015 or later. So the idea here is that in this particular case, the EPA will support larger entities to work with smaller entities that have not had the capacity or don't currently have the capacity to pursue
I'll get
active
submitted
MARC
digitally, comma, and I will forward to Paul for you and copy you.
Okay, good. So, and the minimum, this is you have to have a minimum of 2 sites per member and must have a formal agreement between the coalition to attach to the submission. So how do you select now target areas and priority sites? So target areas are typically neighborhoods, or they are demographic units like census tracts in which have several brownfield sites within them. So sometimes it's the chicken or the egg. The egg applicants are not sure if they should start with priority sites or target areas, because the narrative is centered around the demographics and the need of the target areas. So what we suggest is that you first start by identifying all the brownfield sites across the geographic boundary of your particular region. So if you are a town, let's say, look at all the sites that you have and put them on a map. So then once you put them on a map, you and you can use something simple like Google Maps, Google Earth. You don't need something complicated for that. Then you want to look for, are there any clusters in one or more of the census tracts that are part of your geographic unit? So then you want to compare those to the demographics and the EPA criteria and select those areas that have underserved communities. And because I know that this sounds very complex, I will show you in an example what that looks like. And I will come back to this actually. So the example of Middletown, Connecticut. This is kind of like a mid-size city of 46,000 people. It has 11 census tracts. It's 42 square miles. So it's a fairly extensive geographic area to apply for a single grant. So what the city did, this was back in 2019, was that they started by taking all their the brownfield sites and creating 5 areas that are shown here in different colors that had clusters of brownfields. So to show you an example, the riverfront area, so that little green strip here, was an area that had 5 sites and 1 previous Superfund site. So, just to visualize this again, this green area here is around the river bend, is the same here, that's the river bend here, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sites and a previous Superfund site, all concentrated in that area. So, and it was similar for the other areas as well. So then what the city did, and we actually helped them do that, is take census data from EJ screen. So this shows the demographic index. So the darker the color and the darker the yellow and the orange, the higher the environmental justice index. So this means the higher the priority for EPA. And they also looked how many people live in that particular area. And so they essentially figured out that right here around the riverfront area, they had a higher population density and also fairly high environmental justice indices. So it made sense to write their grant for these 2 census tracts, 5416 and 5417, and they were actually able to do that. If you are a much smaller municipality, then, for example, we've worked with Boscawen in New Hampshire, and that a single census tract is the entire town. So in that case, you don't have to worry about much. You just write the grant for the entire town. And I will go back here now to just talk about how you identify your priority sites. These don't have to be all sites in your community. We do suggest for a successful narrative to have at least 2 priority sites. So for homework prior to starting writing your grant in September, just seeing what you have in your community is super important. So these priority sites must meet the brownfield definition. So they must be underutilized or abandoned and have the potential for contamination. So we've seen people that came to us before and said, oh, I have this gas station that's still working, but we know it's super dirty. If it's still operational, it is not a brownfield. Even though you may think it's going to be a brownfield, it doesn't mean the definition right now. As I mentioned before, it can be privately owned, but you as the applicant cannot be liable for contamination. So this means, for example, that we had a state entity before that wanted to include like a Department of Transportation garage. You cannot have that because this is always owned and operated by state, so the state is liable for the contamination, so they're not eligible for a brownfield grant. An exception to that is schools. So we've had a lot of applicants that are municipalities that own and operated schools that have hazardous building materials. Even though the applicant here is the town itself, they're still eligible for hazardous building material surveys. And then if you're not sure where to start, talk to us, but also consult with state brownfield coordinators and state lists, and I will show you where to find all that information towards the end. So one of the key questions, how do you get demographic data? EJ Screen is the tool that you want to use for that. Right now, the site is not operational because EPA is upgrading it to a version 2.2. If you go to our Brownfields library on our website, you can find previous webinars, and you can also watch a video on how to use the American Community Survey platform on our grant resources page. We are planning to have additional webinars sometime in August with the new version of EJ Screen. Okay, so to go back, community-wide assessment grants. Do you need one target area or can you have more than one target areas? Okay, false. It seems that we have consensus on this right now, and it's true that this is false. You need at least one target area, but you can have more than one target area. So if you are a town, you can have multiple census tracts. If you are a regional planning organization, you can have more than one town. Very good. So I will go over this very quickly because essentially every town and every regional planning organization already has SAM.gov and grants.gov accounts. So the ones that don't have SAM.gov and grants.gov are usually relatively new nonprofit organizations. You can find these 2 links on videos how to do this in the slides that I will be sharing. The only thing I will caution here is that what we have seen before is that a town has a grants.gov site and no one can find the login last minute because it was another office that submitted this. No one knows who has it, and people have failed to submit grants.gov. Everything is ready and they couldn't find the password. So make sure that you know your username and password for both SAM.gov and grants.gov. All right, last but not least, additional resources and training opportunities that we will provide so that you can prepare your proposal. We are going to have in-person boot camps, and tentatively we're planning for 3 of those. One of them is going to be at the University of Connecticut in Storrs. That is a fairly central location between Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. So when we did it last year, we had participants from all these 3 states, and we're going to do that this year as well. And we are going to have one in New Hampshire in Concord at the Department of Environmental Services. And then we are also talking with Maine about adding a boot camp for in-person boot camp to Maine. This is open to prospective applicants. And we allow up to 10 participants because we want to have like a personalized experience and be able to provide individualized advice during that boot camp. So this is an all-day workshop. We go through the different sections of the proposal, section by section, and we go back and forth discussing sites, discussing target areas, reuse plans, key points to make sure that you get what you need and leave the boot camp with a fairly good sense of what you're planning to write. So these are going to be probably sometime in mid-September, mid to end September, after the RFP comes out, and you can sign up for those on our website, and we will be sending also announcements on our newsletter for those. We are also going to have webinars. So obviously this is today's webinar. We are planning 1 or 2 webinars for the new version of EJ Screen after the middle of August. We're going to have another webinar on public health data for the MARC grants that you need to put it together, and then 1 more webinar for displacement and how to address it. We have a 2-stage grant review process. So I'm showing you here the timeline that we had last year, and we're going to replicate something like this year. So last year, the submission date was November 22nd. So the deadline for the first round of the reviews was a month before that, on October 25th, and we return our review to the applicants by November 1st. And this is a fairly extensive review that we do. Then the applicants have the option to revise their submission, and send us the revised submission by November 8th. We return our second round of review by November 14th, so you can address the final comments and submit on November 22nd. And if you miss the first application, the first deadline, you can always apply, send us a review for a single round, and sometimes we'll be lenient and do 2 rounds if we can. That really depends on the number of reviews that we get. Another great opportunity is our Fall Municipal Assistance Program, in which we provide support with the actual grant proposal preparation and the write-up. So we are working with a service learning class, the Brownfield Core, and we work with our students to help prepare these sections. So the narrative for the section 1 of the proposal, we help you put together the target area description and the site description, but you have to tell us what the addresses of the sites are. We help you put together demographic data, public health data, stakeholders, and then finally we can also help with a community engagement plan. If you are working on a cleanup and multipurpose grant, we can also help you organize the public meeting that is required as part of that. The deadline to apply to our Fall Municipal Assistance Program is July 15th. And last year we supported 10 applicants. Because of the number of students that we have, we cannot do more than 10. So this is going to be kind of like a first come, first serve basis. And just to show you our track record from last year on the support we provide, EPA Region 1 did really well. 55 awards were awarded among the 6 states, and we supported half of them. You can see that in Connecticut and New Hampshire, we supported almost all grants awarded. And from our reviews, we reviewed 26 proposals. 25 were submitted and 20 were funded. So the success rate of the reviewed proposals was 80%. And same thing from our map, from the 10 ones we supported, 6 ended up actually submitting the proposal and 5 of those were funded. So we really, put a lot of effort into working with our applicants for success. Oops. Okay, and now I am just going to ask a little bit about gauge your interest on the in-person bootcamp. This is just for planning purposes for us, and you can say no thank you, and we are not going to be offended at all. Okay. All right, very good. So there is at least one interest in Maine, and I'm actually not sure that this is going to be the location, but it's going to be somewhere in Maine. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so to Maine. Okay, I'll make sure I'm talking to Nick Hodgkins today, actually, so I'll make sure to relay that to him. Okay, and then this is kind of like our final slide for today, and thank you very much for participating, and we have plenty of time now for questions, so I will stop sharing my screen and you can still answer. Actually, I think you can't answer anymore because I stopped sharing, but that's fine. So I'm open to questions right now. And feel free to unmute yourselves and ask or put them in the chat. Either way is fine.
Hi, Marie. This is Phil Duffy from the town of Clinton, Massachusetts. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Phil.
Okay. A quick question on all appropriate inquiries. Is that deemed to be phase one in its entirety, or are there other forms of inquiry that can be characterized as appropriate?
No, all appropriate inquiries, the definition is a phase one. If if you have a site and you're unsure, get in touch with us. What we always do in these cases, where there is if there is a question or a gray zone, we help you. We schedule a meeting with Jim Byrne and EPA to go over the documentation that you have and determine eligibility. So if you are unsure, don't just put an X, get in touch with us and we'll help you determine that.
My email will be in your box in about 15 minutes.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, very good. If you don't have any other questions, that's all we had for today. And as I mentioned before, actually, what I am going to do is I'm going to spend 1 second navigating our website so you get a sense of some of the things that are on there. So you can find our fall map application open right here. So you can just click here and, oops, no, actually, no, that's not it. You can open the news item and there is an application link that has very little information, right? I know it looks like a lot, but most of it is like, have you received the funding? What do you plan to apply for? Things like that. So it should take you 5 minutes or less to go through our RFP. And then the process for that is that Randy Mendez, who's our community liaison, will get in touch with you, have a preliminary conversation, and kind of like get you on board. So that's one of the things that that's available to you. Our deadline is July 15th. If you have questions about that, email us and we're happy to answer them. Then I will also encourage you to go to our Brownfields library. And if you scroll down to grant resources, you will find information on demographics, on past webinars that we have on EJ screen. This is just for the grants, and then there's other ones. And then I will also encourage you to go to state resources, because what that is if I, for example, click here on Maine, you can find information on the Brownfields program, the lists, the regulatory framework, statistics and GIS, public health data. So you can find links to a lot of useful information that you will need to put together your grant. So you don't, it's kind of like a one-stop shop for this kind of data. And with that, I will stop sharing. Okay, so a question about the coalition. I noted that there must be 2 sites for each member of the coalition. Yes, you can take the lead on the coalition grant. The members must have 2 sites, not you. So the answer is yes, you can take the lead. And actually, I think that would be a particularly good fit for CCOG, because you have, you know, small communities in your area that are not, you know, that don't necessarily have the capacity to do this themselves. All right, so if there are no other questions, then thank you all for